The internet is ablaze with discussion over Roger Federer's unimaginable act for Alex Eala. One of the most endearing and contentious moments in tennis this year has emerged from what began as a simple gesture behind the scenes. A budding star is being reached by a legend. When nobody expected it, a mentor stepped up. However, not everybody is having a party. Some people think it's unfair. Some are referring to it as the sport's future. And at the heart of it all is Alex Eala, stuck between thankfulness and an unasked-for storm. Alex Eala was anticipated to be 2024's big story. A player with fire in her eyes and a dream too huge to ignore, she was the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam title in the Junior Tour. However, that fantasy began to crumble halfway between the junior championships and the harsh realities of professional tennis. Eala was stranded by early 2025, outside the top 200, unable to get wild cards into major tournaments, and dealing with ailments that were dragging her back just as her momentum was starting to rise. She was gifted. Everyone was aware of that. However, flights to European clay court qualifiers are not covered by talent. If your ranking isn't high enough, talent won't get you into the main draw. A shoulder that has been overworked for years without the right support cannot be healed by talent. Eala was running out of alternatives behind the scenes. Although the Philippines proudly and lovingly supported her, her squad was small, she had few sponsors, and there was just not the infrastructure in place to help a budding WTA player. She required mentoring. She required entry. She needed someone to open doors that had been repeatedly banged shut. However, who replaces a player such as Alex Eala? She didn't come from a Florida tennis academy as a prodigy. She lacked the support of a powerful federation with limitless funds. Until she wasn't, she was fighting by herself. There were rumors in January 2025. A fuzzy picture from a Swiss practice court, whispers on tennis forums, and eventually a name that no one anticipated being connected to this tale. Federer. Roger it didn't seem plausible at first. Federer was no longer active. He was establishing his foundation, spending time with his family, and occasionally attending important events courtside. Why would he get involved in the career of a Southeast Asian WTA player who was having trouble? However, Federer's fans knew something that the average fan did not. This wasn't arbitrary. This was a private matter. Federer has consistently held a belief that transcends rankings. He has previously discussed it. It is the duty of those who have reached the top to assist those who are still rising. And something resonated with him after he saw Eala's story. An unquestionably talented young player battling a system that wasn't designed with her in mind. He was reminded of players he had witnessed slipping through the cracks. Players that were deserving but were never given the opportunity. So he came out in silence. There was only a dialogue between a legend and a fighter who persisted. No announcement, no press release. And everything started there. However, what did Federer do in reality? And what caused the internet to catch fire? First, there was a phone call. Federer personally spoke with Eala in late January, according to people close to her camp. Without the use of a PR firm or agents, Roger Federer called Alex Eala and asked her a single, straightforward question. What are you in need of? Eala was taken aback. In an interview, she later characterized the experience as strange, stating that she couldn't believe it was true and had to ask him to repeat himself, but it was. Furthermore, Federer wasn't just saying things. He genuinely wanted to assist. The strategy took shape in a matter of weeks. Federer made arrangements for Eala to train at his Swiss academy. A full training block with access to his coaching staff, facilities, and network, not as a marketing gimmick or for a weekend picture shoot. He paid for it. He made it possible to spar with opponents who were among the top 50. He put her in touch with physiotherapists who had experience treating Grand Slam winners. In the most significant move, however, Federer personally pushed for Eala to be given a wild card into the WTA 250 Geneva Open, which is held only a few weeks prior to the French Open. Federer had strong connections to the tournament, and his word was taken seriously. The wild card was given out. This opportunity to compete at a high level, earn ranking points, and establish her belonging changed Eala's life. Federer felt that it was just the proper thing to do. Then the news leaked. A Swiss sportswriter posted a picture of Federer and Eala on a practice court on Twitter on February 3, 2025, captioning it, "Guess who's training with the GOAT?" The tale went viral in a matter of hours. It was picked up by tennis websites. Social media was swamped with fans. Additionally, Roger Federer's relationship with Alex Eala made headlines around the world by the next morning. The responses were split and quick. Supporters described it as lovely, a mentor stepping up when the system failed, and a legend giving back. Filipino followers of Eala were overjoyed and showered her Instagram with expressions of thanks and pride. Tennis greats like Martina Navratilova and Billie Jean King hailed Federer's gesture, saying it exemplified what the game ought to be. Not everyone, though, was applauding. The fairness was questioned by certain participants. Eala, why? Why not other gamers who had been grinding for years yet were having trouble? Was Federer's personal preference at play here, or was it merit? Additionally, the wild card into Geneva was a position that might have been awarded to someone else who didn't have a Swiss legend making calls on their behalf, or who won it through rankings. The story was only getting started, and the internet was divided. The subsequent events would transform adoration into indignation and compel both Federer and Eala to defend something they had not requested. The Federer-Eala tale became one of the most talked-about tennis issues in less than 48 hours. However, the topic of inspiration was no longer the only one discussed. Fairness, privilege, and whether one participant was receiving an undue advantage were at issue. The Federer-Eala hashtag became viral on Twitter. Thousands of fans praised Federer as a class act and shared videos of Eala's junior victories to commemorate the mentorship. Filipino sports pages erupted in pride for a country that had long yearned for a world-class tennis player. It was a sense of validation. Alex Eala was more than just a celebrity. The greatest of all time was supporting her. However, the criticism was equally vociferous. A number of WTA athletes posted crudely worded critiques on social media. "It's great that legends want to help, but what about the hundreds of players who grind without a famous mentor?" tweeted one former top 50 player. "Are they simply irrelevant?" Another posted, "Awards should be earned, not gifted because you know the right people." The comment sections became hostile. Supporters claimed that Eala was given opportunities that she wasn't entitled to. Others supported her, claiming that Federer recognized something worthwhile in her and that she had already shown herself in juniors. The argument raged on Instagram, Reddit, and tennis forums. It was regarded as nepotism by some and mentorship by others. Then the fragments of thought began to fall. The Federer Effect is the title of an essay written by a well-known tennis journalist. Does the sport suffer when luminaries choose their favorites? Regardless of skill, the article questioned if well-known mentorships constituted an unfair playing field by providing some players access that others would never have. Alex Eala didn't ask for this, but now she has to live with it, reads another outlet. The pressure that Eala was now under was examined in the article. Every game would be examined closely. Every victory would be scrutinized. Critics would blame Federer if she were to triumph. They would claim she wasted his time if she didn't succeed. Eala's Instagram turned into a battlefield. Accusations drowned out supportive remarks. "This was not earned by you. Roger is the sole reason you are here. Show that you are deserving of it." Eala remained silent the entire time. She didn't reply, didn't publish, and didn't defend herself for 2 weeks. Under pressure, some people viewed it as shame. Some perceived it as guilt. However, the stillness couldn't continue forever since Alex Eala's final words were unexpected and completely altered the situation. Alex Eala felt oppressed by the strained Federer's Academy. Every practice was now being watched. Pictures were posted online. Her form, footwork, and readiness for the level Federer had pushed her into were all evaluated by fans. What should have been a once-in-a-lifetime chance, the Geneva wild card suddenly felt like a test she couldn't afford to fail. The criticism didn't stop. On a well-known tennis podcast, a former WTA coach stated, "Look, I respect Roger, but this sets a bad precedent. When a struggling player is given preferential treatment because a legend likes them, what message does it convey? The game of tennis is meant to be meritocratic. Others brought attention to the unsettling reality. There were other gifted athletes stranded in the challenger circuit besides Alex Eala. Dozens of women were slogging through qualifying, staying in cheap hotels, paying for coaching out of pocket, and barely making ends meet. They all lacked Roger Federer's phone number. None of them were receiving wild cards to WTA events, nor were they training in Switzerland. Was that reasonable? Even admirers of Alice found it difficult to respond to the question that pervaded the entire narrative. She was talented, really. She had potential. However, many players who would never have this opportunity did the same. And that's the reason this was so difficult. The organizers of the Geneva Open, meanwhile, encountered criticism of their own. Because Federer asked, fans accused them of favoritism and breaking the rules. Alex Eala is a former junior Grand Slam champion with immense potential, the tournament director said in a statement defending the ruling. We think she deserves this chance and are honored to be a part of her path. However, the statement just made others more irate. There was no ranking for immense potential. There was no resume on it. Subjectivity was involved. Subjectivity also felt like privilege in a sport that relies heavily on statistics. The trolls then showed up. Eala's social media turned into a battlefield. Her messages were inundated with racist remarks that attacked her heritage, nationality, and eligibility to play tennis in Europe. She was being utilized as a diversity token, according to some. She didn't belong, according to others. The hatred persisted. Despite her team's best efforts to protect her, the harm was already done. Eala was battling for more than just her job now. She was defending her honor. She continued to remain silent until February 18th. At that point, Alex Eala uploaded a 3-minute video of herself sitting on a seat at the academy and staring straight into the camera without any script. And the whole tennis world was rocked by what she said. Her remarks were painful, candid, and unvarnished. And they made Roger Federer and everyone else face the reality. The video by Alex Eala was silent. Her voice, steady but impassioned, addressing directly to those who had questioned, doubted, and insulted her. No dramatic music, no edited edits. I didn't ask for this, she said bluntly at the beginning. I didn't ask Roger Federer to get in touch, she went on. I did not request a wild card. I want to correct the record since I didn't ask to get involved in a discussion about privilege and justice. She described how she had been practicing by herself for months, dealing with ailments, and finding it difficult to pay for a good physiotherapist. She talked about the times she wondered if it was worth it to make all the sacrifices and if she should give up.